at the Boston players' smile there.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. Host Sherrod Blakely, joined by my man, Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. What's going on, G?
When I become your man, what's up? Like,
we good today. It's Father's Day. It's Father's Day.
Yeah, it is your happy Father's Day, Sherrod, by the way.
Exactly. I'm in a good mood, Gary.
Yeah.
I'm in a good mood. Even though the Celtics got that ass handed to them, I'm still in a good mood.
When you get a chance, show me all the nice ties that you got for Father's Day and all the golf clubs and stuff you got. Just show it to me.
My kids are next level. They're not trying to do that stuff. See, that was cool when you like 8 and 9 and 10. Nah, I got grown kids, so they give me grown gifts now. Cologne, clothes, grown folk stuff. So, man, shout out to my kids, Ariana and Isaiah, and my wife Jennifer, who's all three of them holding it down today for sure.
Well, good.
But enough about me. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics. Specifically, what the hell happened in Dallas? The Mavericks with the 122-84 win, one of the worst playoff losses the Celtics have suffered, the lowest scoring game the Celtics have had all season, regular season and playoffs. Tatum, I don't think Tatum had a bucket after the first quarter. The list of things that did not go well for the Celtics is long and lengthy, and we would be here all day if we went into all the stuff that didn't work. But Gary, I want to kind of begin the conversation with Jalen, only because Jalen, up until Game 4, I thought was a clear-cut favorite for Finals MVP, and he was anything but that in Game 4. From your perspective, Gary, why did things go so wrong for Jalen specifically?
I don't know. I think everybody was in quicksand. I mean, it was interesting. Like they went out and took a 9-6 lead. Excuse me. And you're like, okay, well, they're not down 15-2. Like, it seems like, okay, this is not going to be a game like it was Game 3 where they fell behind 25-12. Like you thought, okay, the Celtics are gonna be in the game. Then all of a sudden it was like 25-14, and and Jalen just played like he played 2 steps slow. He didn't handle the ball well. He took some bad shots. He missed some chippies. It was just all around. But to point him out, I don't think it would be fair because everybody was terrible. Derek White shot 2 air balls on threes. Jrue Holiday couldn't hold on to the ball. Tatum, one play, he just handed the ball on a drive to Josh Green, who just took it from him or whatever. Like, I didn't understand what happened out there. It was mystifying because they had played well throughout the series. They had, and you knew Dallas was going to come out fighting, but I thought Dallas, if the Celtics would have fought the first 2 or 3 quarters, Dallas probably might have taken a step back. But you give them all this momentum, you down 26 at halftime. It was just like, I couldn't believe how terrible they looked. And I don't know, you just have to throw that out, I guess. I don't know how you people, Dallas has figured some things out. They probably have, and they got contributions from guys who didn't. Lively was good. Dante Exum hit some shots. But you fouled Josh Green on a 3. Like, that's just, some of it was just bad basketball. And I don't know. Jalen just seemed like though he was in a daze in a sense. It was mystifying to me. Like, I didn't understand it. And it was so was Tatum, so was Derek White, so was Holiday. Horford had no impact on the game. Like, I don't know what to make of that game. I mean, Jalen 3 for 12. I mean, minus 28. Drew's a minus 38. Tatum minus 33. I mean, it was just like they just mailed it in. I mean, their leading scorer was Sam Hauser. second leading scorer. Tatum had 15 points. I mean, so I don't know, man. Like that was just, Drew Holiday, 5 turnovers in 29 minutes. I don't know.
After no turnovers in the first 3 games total. Right.
Peyton Pritchard, like, who hit some shots at the end, but Peyton is just still, Peyton is just, before that, his little, surge when it was garbage time was 1 for his first 16. And I know it was a key play where he, like, in the first half, where they were in the bonus and Maxi Kleber drives around him and he just grabs him. And it's just like, you can't keep Maxi Kleber in front of you and then you foul him to send him to the line in the bonus. Like, just bad basketball, Sherrod. So it's really mystifying what the hell happened here in terms of why they showed up like that, why they didn't play with desperation as they talked about because they wanted to close it out. But now, now the pressure's on. They got to play well in Game 5.
Yeah, it felt, this was the first time this postseason where it felt like they were playing with house money and they believed that they were playing with house money. Like, they've been in a situation where, it was clear and obvious to all of us that they had a significant amount of wiggle room going into a game where they could have an off night and it'd be okay. They'd still be okay in the series. But it wasn't until that Game 4 at Dallas did they actually play like that was the case. And that was disappointing. It was disappointing because, to your point, Gary, it was a collective across the board thing. I mean, Drew Holiday, 0 turnovers in the first 3 games, had 5 in Game 4. Tatum, like I said, was 4 for 10, but I don't think he made a basket after the first quarter. Jaylen Brown, not only did he look a step or 2 slow, but he also looked a step or 2 less aggressive. I mean, Jaylen Brown, the reason why he's been the best player for the first 3 games was the balancing act that he was able to strike between when to aggressively attack that defense before it gets set up and when to be effective and efficient in the half-court game. And it seemed that he completely took himself out of that attacking mode where, the Celtics would get a rebound, and they didn't get a ton of those. That's another story. But when they did get a rebound and he would start bringing the ball up, he would just basically walk it up. And as opposed to looking to bring it up quickly, see how they adjust to that. And if they adjust, fine, you slow it up, but at least put them in position where they've got to react to something that you were doing. And the Celtics just didn't really do much of that. The end result was that they got their asses kicked. I mean, how do you go down by 48 points in the NBA Finals? Again, I'm still trying to wrap my arms around that. The Celtics, they look like this was November. Like this was just another game in November, the 4th out of 5 games in 8-9 nights, and you're just mailing it in. And that was really disappointing. The one thing that certainly was not disappointing was the player Luka. I'm just curious your thoughts on just what he was able to do, particularly defensively, because that's where he caught a lot of heat coming into this game.
Yeah, I thought he was good defensively. He stood his ground. He didn't reach. He didn't take too many chances because he's a big guy. He's going to be hard to just go through. So if he keeps his ground and gets his feet set, he can be a solid, decent defender. Not a great defender, but a decent defender. I thought he was good. I just thought, quite honestly, it was the other guys getting momentum, and you hope, if you're a Celtics fan, that doesn't carry over now to the rest of the games, because they didn't get P.J. Washington had 6 points, Derrick Jones had 5, and Gafford had 7. But it was the bench, Dallas was not, oh my God, Dallas was just killed. Dallas pulled away. I mean, Tim Hardaway had 5 threes in garbage time, and I thought that Lively 3-pointer was a big play. And then that sequence where he had to dunk after the 3-pointer. But I thought I think this was more on the Celtics, right? I just thought this was more on the Celtics just not playing with any focus. And then allowing Luka, and I just thought their defense was terrible. Like, I don't know what you thought, Sherrod. I thought Kyrie and Luka just got to their spots with no hesitation. Kyrie's 6'3". He should not be getting to the rim. How are they letting him lay the ball in? Like, no, nobody can block it. Nobody can go up and contest it. Like, there was just many plays. One play, like, they just let him, I don't know if they didn't want to foul him. They didn't want the and one, but they just let him go up and lay it in. It's like, he's 6'3". Like, he's not 6'9". Like, why is it that he's able to get to the rack so easily? Why is it that Luka is able to get to his spot? I know he's big, but it's just like you're just letting him get 4 feet and then have a little floater. Like, I thought, honestly, Sherrod, I just thought their defense was just non-existent. It was terrible. They got to their spot, and I don't know why. The Celtic fans had come out. You could tell there was a lot of Celtic fans that traveled to Dallas just for that game and bought the tickets on Gametime. Yeah, exactly. All of our our sponsors who sell tickets, they snapped them up from the Maverick fans, and they were ready to celebrate. And then you just come out and play that way. Like, I just don't understand it. And they got to figure that out. After the game, Sherrod, you were there. It was like, well, Dallas played well. But like, what about you? It's not like if you had lost this game, 120 to 110, then I would have said, okay, like Dallas played well. Dallas has outplayed you guys. You guys played terrible. That was the story. It wasn't necessarily that Dallas did play better, but it was also, but Luka and Kyrie were 1 for 14 from 3. It wasn't like Dallas was unbeatable that night. It was that the Celtics didn't even try to play. You're down 61-35 at halftime. Like, this is on the Celtics. And I don't know, I'm not saying that, like we saw it in hockey. Florida's up 3-0 and lost 8-1 to Edmonton on Saturday night.
Right.
So it happens. It's human nature. You're up 3-0. I get it. So I'm not going to turn around and go, oh, this has never happened. We can go back to history, Sherrod. The Bulls are up 3-0 on the Sonics in the 96 Bulls, a team, and they lost 2 in a row and had to close it out in 6. You don't want that to happen if you're the Celtics. You don't want any more suspense in this series. But it happens, right? So the question is what you do about it now, because I just thought it was their effort and the way they played was unacceptable.
As the NBA and NHL seasons start to wind down, things are just heating up in the WNBA and on the baseball front. There's no better time than now to join PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million active members. With PrizePicks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports team this summer. You can make a PrizePick lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and you're locked in. For me, one of my go-to guys has been Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, who, when it comes to rebounding, I'm going more almost every time. He was great for me during the Eastern Conference Finals against Indiana when he reached double-digit rebounds in 3 of the 4 games. That's what I'm talking about, JT. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's right. Just download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Yeah, I would be more concerned if, let's say, the Celtics played the way they normally do and they got smashed like this. Like, if they were putting forth great effort defensively, if they were just flying around and just, Dallas was just quicker, more aggressive, more assertive, just doing everything a little bit better, even though the Celtics were being solid, then, yeah, I might be a little bit nervous. But the Celtics, this was like a 180 from what we saw in games 1, 2, and 3, from an effort standpoint, from an execution standpoint, from a focus standpoint. I thought the Celtics, they just looked clueless out there. They looked as if they really didn't have any type of plan for success. That they were basically, this is what you expect to see when you're having maybe the first day of practice. And you're just basically just trying to go out there and just crack a sweat. You ain't trying to win. You're not trying to lose necessarily. You're just trying to get some cardio in. And that's essentially all they got out of that game. They did not do any of the things that we've come to expect from them. There was no signs of resisting the force that Dallas was bringing at them. They just embraced it. They just said, okay, y'all coming at us, let's go. Y'all got this one. And that for me was the big disappointment. And it, even if the Celtics win Game 5, which I anticipate they will, they're still not going to be seen as one of the all-time greats in terms of teams winning championships, in part because of just how lackluster they played in Game 4. But before we kind of delve into that particular line of question, I want to talk a little about Jason Tatum because, as you pointed out, Gary, there really wasn't one or two guys that were really horrifically worse off than other Celtics. But Jason Tatum is your best player. He's the one guy that, for better or for worse, is going to catch the brunt of whatever fallout there is from your performance. And the thing about him, Gary, it was a little bit different than Jalen. Jalen, to your point, I agree. I think Jalen looked a step slow, like he just wasn't as aggressive or assertive. Tatum, I just didn't feel that he was there. Like, I didn't feel that he was trying too hard or not trying hard enough. It just seemed like he was just kind of running through the motions. I mean, I'm just curious, what was your take on his overall play?
Yeah, I thought he got frustrated after the first quarter, and I just thought he didn't take the ball strong to the basket. I was talking about that play with Josh Green, and I think he thought even though he took how many free throws did he take? 5, 6? He took 6 free throws. I think he felt
not
like
that many.
He should have gotten some more calls, and he just wasn't quite there. He just wasn't there, and it was just like he took the ball to the rim, missed a couple of chippies. The contact was there, and it was and you could complain about the officiating or whatever, or lack thereof or whatever. You could include that and go, well, it was the Scott Foster was doing the game and the fix was in or whatever you want to say, but I don't think Tatum was able to get to the rim like he wanted to, and when he did, he didn't cash in. He's got to be fierce when it comes to that. He's got to put it down. And I didn't think he played with, like you said with Jalen, didn't play with the same aggression, and I don't know why. Like it's just mystifying when they look so good in that third quarter of Game 3, right? Like, we're the best team. We're outclassing the Mavericks. If they come out with this one and then play like the Mavericks are up 3-0, I don't understand that. And if you're the Celtics, you got to figure that out. And it's human nature, I guess. And Dallas played with all the desperation because they didn't want to get, they didn't want to lose on their home floor, and they didn't want the Celtics to celebrate. I get it. But there's a level of, like, you got to push back. And after that first quarter, I just thought they didn't push back. 34-21. And then the second quarter, they just couldn't score. I think they hit two baskets for the first 9 minutes of the second quarter. They didn't hit any 2-point shots in the second quarter. I mean, when does that happen? You don't get a bucket, a layup, a dunk, a little jumper. All their baskets in the second quarter were threes. It was just a disaster. And to be honest, like, they've got to figure some things out. And Missoula's going to need to make adjustments. So I think, as you alluded to, the number one adjustment is play with some fire. Play like dogs. Play like you really want this. You're so close to your goal. You're so close. Here it is, waiting for you. Shut the naysayers up. Put a title in your belt. You become a legend in Boston forever. And you come out like that, I don't get it.
Yeah, and Gary, you alluded to it, but I want you to kind of elaborate a little bit more on just the adjustments game, because obviously when you get your ass kicked like that, you got to do some things differently. When you look at the adjustments that the Celtics need to do, you mentioned just playing with a little bit more fire, a little more dog in them. That's certainly one of them. What are some other adjustments you'd like to see this team make going into Game 5, and specifically, Jalen and Jason, because obviously they're going to have to be the leaders of whatever changes the Celtics make. What do you want to see those guys do differently or do a better job of in Game 5?
Get to the rack and start drawing some fouls early, impose your will, make Luka defend, and make him move his feet. Offensively, just move the ball, hit some shots, and then sometimes just to me take the right shot, and sometimes take the shot that the first shot. Quit. I think they were a little too unselfish at times. Like they had some shot clock violations. Like they were just kind of frazzled of what to take. And Derek White's got to be better. No air balls. I mean, I'm saying that they happen, but Derek White just seemed like, he hit that 30-footer or whatever, and it was like, okay, maybe it's their night. Maybe because that cut it, I want to say, to like 28-21. You're like, okay, they're taking Dallas's flurry, and then he hit that shot. Okay, it's only 7-point game. Okay, and then all of a sudden, like they didn't score for a minute and they were down. I think Dallas went on like a 10 or 11-0 run, and that was it. But I would just think, Sherrod, on offense, be more aggressive, more ball movement, get those guys, make Dallas defend, and then attack the paint. So, on defense, you got to cover Luka. You can't have him so free. You got to maybe send a second defender. You just can't let him back you in and then just take that step back. They need rim protection. I don't know who that's going to be, whether it's be Horford. It needs somebody, and I don't think it'll be Porzingis. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him, but they need somebody because Dallas is not afraid to attack the paint, and you have to have some type of resistance. And they got to play harder. Just straight up play harder. The 50-50 balls, they got none. They didn't get any damn rebounds. That one play where, like, they allowed there was one play they scored a basket, and then Dallas ran the ball up, and Gafford ran right past Tatum and got an alley-oop from Luka. Like, inexcusable after a made basket. And then there was a one where Lively just flashes down the lane, and they just find him and dunk. Like, what are you guys doing? Cover those guys. Like, the focus has got to be there. I don't know, Sherrod. Maybe, I think the adjustments have to be as much mental as they are physical. But they do have to do things different because Dallas obviously felt like we defended them well in the fourth quarter of Game 3, and we defended them well all of Game 4. So we found something. Like, they're not going to be able to score on us like they were before. So they feel like they found something. The Celtics have to now counter. And they got a lot of smart guys in that locker room, on that coaching staff to figure out, okay, how do we get Dallas moving again in terms of, like, off on the back of their feet as opposed to just waiting for us to drive and then contesting or sending two bodies or forcing them to take a rush three to beat the shot clock. Like, and guys just have to hit shots too, Sherrod. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, Gary. But the one thing I think I'd like to see them do is put Tatum and Brown in different positions to score, and not put them in positions where you're trying to. And I wrote about this for my Substack. Not put those guys in positions where you're looking for certain matchups, but put them in positions where they can get to certain spots. I thought they did a much better job of that in very quick burst in Game 4, and I think they've done a pretty good job for the most part. For example, rather than having someone set a screen for Tatum, have Tatum be the screener, and that they did that in the first quarter, and Tatum got a left-handed layup, because he set a screen what looked like it was for Derek White, and Derek swung the ball over to Tillman, and when he set the screen for Derek, it created a switch where Kyrie was on Tatum, and Kyrie was fronting Tatum, and Tatum just rolled to the basket. Xavier caught him on a bounce pass, and Tatum had a layup because the help side defender on that play was Luka, and Luka ain't trying to bring no damn help. That's not who he is. That's not what he do defensively. So Tatum had a wide open layup, and if Luka, by some act of God, was quick enough to get over there in position, that meant Drew Holiday was going to be wide open for corner three. So the Celtics, one of the reasons why they have been able to dominate this series is because they put guys in positions where Dallas has had to pick their poison. Are you going to potentially give up a layup to Tatum, or are you going to give up an open three to Drew Holiday or a three to Derek White? And the Celtics have made them pay for that. And we didn't see that in Game 4 because I didn't think the Celtics showed enough patience to allow those things to kind of percolate. I mean, Luka, as we talked about, and we'll get into Dallas with their big breakout game because it was a breakout game for them. You know, Luka, and I went back and looked at the numbers. The Celtics were 2 for 11 shooting against Luka when he was the primary defender, which is just, there's no way in hell that should ever happen. Luka is not that kind of defender. And when I look back at what he was able to do, essentially, the Celtics were rushing things. They were looking to attack him so quickly. And the adjustment that Luka has made is he's basically being a solid defender, doing those things you talked about, staying on his ground and keeping himself between the basket and the defender. He's doing it a little bit longer than he had in games 1, 2, and 3. But he's still not doing it long enough to where you can't exploit that. You just have to be a little bit more patient. I think when the Celtics go back and look at the film, they're going to realize that we just need to give another second or two or 3 to that matchup so we can get it where we want it to and create all the different options that we've been able to do throughout the course of this series.
The NBA Finals have finally arrived and will once again be one of the hottest tickets in sports. You want to be there and not have to mortgage the family home or take a second job to do so, right? Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. That's a huge get when it comes to the NBA Finals, which will start in Boston for games 1 and 2. Those tickets are going to be super pricey, so waiting to the last minute and take advantage of the Gametime app makes a ton of sense. Here in Boston, every season is sporting season, so for me, the Gametime app makes it super easy to find tickets for just about every sport in my area, which is great this time of year when family or friends pop into town at the last minute and you're scrambling for something to do that won't break the bank, like, getting tickets to the NBA Finals. Gametime has you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
But the one guy I wanted to get your take on, excuse me, was Derek Lively, who I thought was huge for them.
Yeah, he's so good. He
Talk a bit about Lively.
So good, he makes you cough. Let me see here. I think he's just active, and the Celtics don't have a counter for him in terms of an active big like that. Porzingis can be that guy, but they don't have that young. I mean, unless you threw Kate out there, but he's not ready. But if you go that active, they don't have that active big who can run the floor, who's just going to – but, he hit a three. I thought that was one of the game-changing plays because it was just sort of like – I want to say it was like the Celtics might have been up 15-11 or something like that, and then he hit 5 in a row.
And it was his first one of the season, too. Yeah,
and he can shoot. He's been warming up, and he can hit threes. He's not a scrub. That was not a surprise. He just doesn't shoot them. But – I just think with his activity, you gotta keep him close. You can't let him run the floor, trailing the break, and then going for a monster dunk. Like you're not going to stop him once he gets the ball close to the basket. So you're going to have to block him out. You gotta account for him when it comes to rebounding. You can't out rebound damn near your whole team. Like it's just embarrassing. And to me, I just thought he was just a difference maker. And that's what I think they thought they were going to get in the first 3 games of the series. But the Celtics kind of neutralized him and Gafford because Gafford's not been good at all. He's had his moments here and there, but then Lively has been better as the series has progressed. That's what rookies do. He's only 20. He's going to be a force in this league. So I'm thinking that you got to account for him. You got to be physical with him. You got to block him out. Like, you just can't let him just not snap up every rebound or just you throw the ball in the air for lobs. It's just there's got to be accountability, and I just think they didn't account for him, and he ended up getting confidence. He ended up and he played well. Just 22 minutes, a plus 20. 11 points, 12 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds. That's just unacceptable. 7 of their 13 offensive rebounds. The Celtics as a team had 4 offensive rebounds. That's unacceptable.
Yep.
Lively gave them 7 extra possessions. It's just no wonder. No wonder they outshot you by 11. And all these margins that Joe Mazzulla talks about. No wonder they did. Because, 1, you missed a lot of shots. 2, you shot 36%. But 2, 52 to 31 on rebounding. And it was like all of those guys rebounded. Luka had 5. Kyrie had 4. Gafford 4. Just Josh Green, 18 minutes, had 5 boards, 2 offensive rebounds. You give yourself 13 offensive rebounds, 13 second chances to score again. That's unacceptable if you're the Celtics. You cannot let that happen. And Lively was a spark in that. And they've got to account for him. They can't just act like this is just a one-off. They've got to figure out, okay, what do we do about him? There's got to be adjustments. They got to go into the lab, and figure some things out. You can't just run the ball out in the court and think because you're at the Garden, you're just going to coast to a win and they're going to lay down. Now, I will say that when the teams generally, I remember, just a couple of weeks ago that Minnesota had won Game 4 at Dallas and they were coming home. And everybody was like, oh, the Timberwolves they're going to win this one. We're going to be back in Dallas. And they're going to take the momentum back. And then Minnesota had nothing left for that Game 5. They were done. Luka had 20 in the first, and Minnesota was done. So I'm not saying Dallas is going to be done. They're going to give up. But I'm saying if you push a team down 3-1, that's why no team has ever come back. Because eventually the laydown happens, and sometimes you can't help it. It's psychological. You're tired, and so you've got to push them. And the Celtics never pushed Dallas. You weren't going to do it in the first quarter, you weren't going to do it in the first 6 minutes. You're going to do it in the second, third quarter when you just keep applying that pressure, and they're like, okay, these fools came to play. So if I'm the Celtics, I just think you got to adjust mentally as much as physically, and you got to account for Lively, and you got to understand. Now those guys have confidence. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and again, to your point about being down 3-1, it takes a Herculean effort to get back into, particularly if you lose the first 3 games, just to make it competitive. Forget about winning it, just to be competitive. But is this a series now, Gary, or is this just a minor bump in the road for the Celtics in their journey to banner 18?
I think it's a series now, but it all depends on how the Celtics approach Game 5. If Dallas gets Game 5, then it's a series, obviously, because many teams will come back from 3-2, and the Celtics should know from them coming back from 0-3 last year to force a Game 7 at home that it can happen. That you can do it,
right?
And we're talking about it's happened in hockey and it's happened in baseball. We were talking about the Red Sox and Yankees and from 0-4, but so it can happen in other sports. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but because usually the laydown usually things just don't go that well for 4 games in a row. If you look at the Celtics last year, things went well, but they also got the Derek White layup at the buzzer. Okay, that game was lost, Game 6, and then Game 7, Tatum sprains his ankle. Things like that happen.
Right.
When you're asked to win 4 straight playoff games and you're down 0-3. Not everything can go well for 4 consecutive. That's why it's so hard to sweep teams, especially as the later rounds come, because eventually something's bad going to happen. Something unfortunate is going to happen. So if I'm The Celtics, I don't bank on that. You got to make those things happen to Dallas. You have to push Dallas to the brink, play your butts off, come out fired up, take the home crowd, and embrace what they're doing. But also, you got to execute on the floor too. It can't just be the crowd and we're at home. Like that's the old Celtics. Take advantage of it on with your play on the floor, and they got to make up for it. But as we know, Sherrod, every individual game every game's individual. It's different. Game 1 was different from game 2. Game 2 was different from game 3. This is not going to be the after effects of game 4, but I do think the Celtics have to take what they've learned and take that film and use it positively for some serious adjustments. And I'm talking with effort, but also how they defend Luka and Kyrie. If some of those other guys go off, okay, then that's fine. But, if Dante hits 6 threes, but you can't let Luka and Kyrie just be comfortable and go off, and that gets all their other guys going.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the one thing, though, Gary, and even though they're coming off just a crappy game, I still feel good about them winning this series. I feel really good about them winning it in Game 5. And if that were to happen, which I think it will, there's going to be different ideas and concepts as far as who deserves the credit for them winning Banner 18. And I'm just curious. If I've got the Jays in one corner, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I've got the other Jay, Joe Mazzulla, and then I got Brad Stevens. If you had to prioritize who gets the credit cake for them winning Banner 18, how would you prioritize that? Like, who would be your 1, your 2, and your 3?
Wow. I'd probably say the Jays get 40%, Joe gets 30%, and Brad gets 30%. Like, what I mean by that is I think coaching has been a real factor. I think Mazzulla stood up to the challenge and been a good coach. And, he lost game 4, but he's pretty much out-coached Kidd throughout the series. Brad putting that roster together, and then the Jays just carrying it home. So I'd say 40-30-30. Who is like number top? I'd say it's even. I'm going to give it. I'd say the Jays first, and then an even tie for second, Brad and Joe.
Okay, I'll buy that. Because I think that we don't really give Brad enough credit for what he's done with this team. We see what Joe does on a night-in, night-out basis, and we see the Jays do their work. But, Brad really, he's been the brain trust behind this group coming together. When you look at some of the deals that he made, and again, there's no shade at Danny Ainge, who I thought did a hell of a job. Danny was the one that was able to get the deals that got them Jaylen and Jason. But when you look at the ability to get a Drew Holiday, to get a Kristaps Porzingis, when you already had a fairly stacked roster to begin with, that's some pretty impressive moves, which is why Brad was the best executive in the NBA this year. So I give him a lot of props for what he's been able to do. In fact, I would probably give him a little bit more of the credit cake than Joe, simply because Brad was the one that brought Joe and put him in that position. So I would probably go the Jays at the top of the food chain. I would have Brad number 2, and I would have Joe a close number 3. Because the thing I do like about Joe is how he's grown over the course of his time as a head coach. There were things that I just thought showed signs of being pretty good at his first year, but can he get better going forward? And he has. I think his use of timeouts is so much better. His some of the plays, some of his ATOs, I think, are much better than we saw his first year. And it's just his comfort level as a head coach, I think, is really, really impressive. And the other thing I have to keep in the back of my mind is he's like the youngest guy doing this thing in the NBA. And the fact that he's made the kind of growth that he has had and he hasn't lost this team, it's been an impressive run for Joe Mazzulla up to this point. So, that being said, that is it for us today. And hopefully next time we'll be talking about Banner 18 and how the Celtics are going to be looking to repeat and NBA Finals MVP. I still think Jaylen Brown is the front runner for that, but that's just my pick. Gary, you're probably going to have a hand or vote in that. So I'm just, I'm not trying to influence one of the judges, but I'm just saying, I mean, if JB is JB and Tatum is Tatum, so you do what you got to do. But before we get out of here, I just want to give a quick shout out to PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Also, our good friends at Gametime, which takes the guesswork out of buying last-minute tickets to your favorite sporting events. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That is it for the Big 3 NBA podcast. I'm Sherrod Blakely for Gary Washburn. Take care and happy Father's Day to all the fathers and father figures out there. Have a wonderful day, folks.